everyone, I'm Tamara Krinsky.
And I'm Ari Karpel.
Welcome to We Like to Watch, where we review the latest and hopefully greatest of streaming series to help you figure out what you like to watch.
Our first series today is Thurston. It's a Western set in the 1880s in a town that's nearly abandoned, and we follow the few people who are left in this Kansas territory.
You seen this woman?
She wanted?
Manner of speaking.
You sure you haven't seen her?
I'm sure.
In case she shows, we'll be holed up at the Esmeralda for a few days.
Unless you have any objections to that, Sheriff.
Why would I?
Okay, so let me preface this discussion of Thurston with the fact that I grew up addicted to Little House on the Prairie.
Of course you did.
I read all the books, I found the series, watched all of that. So I was primed to love Thurston, a Western that features some really strong female characters. And I was kind of disappointed that I didn't.
Why?
Well, you know, I was trying to put my finger on it, and because I think the performances are good. I think it actually has to do with a tonal issue. I felt like some of the actors or some of the characters felt like they were commenting on the genre, whereas others were living inside it and grounded within the genre. And so when they rubbed up against each other, sometimes literally, I was thrown, and it took me out of the story, and I had a hard time investing in the characters. And it even happened with some of the language. You know, some of the characters seem to be written with almost in a dialect, whereas others, like the character of Maggie, who plays one of the tough frontierswoman with a secret, who, you know, drops F-bombs.
It's true. I mean, I think that's a totally legitimate criticism. I kind of let some of that slide. I'm not sure why. I mean, for some reason it felt, well, it kind of felt like they were tackling something interesting and different. I haven't seen a kind of indie film version of the West that's telling a story largely from a female perspective. And I was intrigued by that. It has a very slow pace, and I'm not normally a Western guy. I mean, you put on a John Wayne movie and I'm gonna go to sleep. But somehow this felt intriguing and kind of compelling to me, and I think primarily because the performances were very good. I think it's tough to do this kind of thing on a budget, and so I was taken with it.
Yeah, I mean, I give them credit for everything that they did do on a budget, but at the end of the day, when you have a lot of different shows competing for your attention, I'm not thinking about how much it cost to make it or the fact that they, you know, did this outside of a studio system. It's, you know, am I compelled to click on that next episode?
Sure.
So it turns out that people on the frontier aren't the only ones who have something to hide. On our next show, Sequestered from Crackle, we follow the goings-on of a jury that's been sequestered to deliberate the case of a high-profile kidnapping.
I was pretty underwhelmed by this pilot. It felt a little bit to me like the show that just wasn't good enough for real TV.
Now, why do you think it felt that way?
I feel like I've seen stories like this before, but that said, I've learned not to judge a show by its pilot. That I think,
don't be judgy.
You know, I'm trying not to be. So I think the show writers have so much to establish in the first episode, who the characters are, the complicated storyline. So I gave it a chance, and it did improve and get more intriguing as it went along. Maybe not enough.
Maybe not enough. And see, I actually felt like there was enough there for me. You know from the beginning with this show that, you know, everyone's got a secret, everything is not as it seems. So for me, the interesting thing was tuning in to find out what those secrets were. I'm a person who, when I read a thriller, if I get into it, I read, you know, like first 50 pages or so. And then I actually turn to the back and read the last 3 pages.
What?
And
who are you? Who does that? Why would you do that?
Because I love figuring out the how. Like, I love figuring out how they get from A to Z and what happens in between.
So did you skip to the end of Sequestered?
No, I did not, but I already felt like I knew that everyone had a secret, so whatever the secret is, that's the end, but like how seeing those secrets revealed each week was really fun for me.
I don't know how I feel about the fact that you do that. It's weird.
Yeah, it is,
I would
isn't it?
never in a million years do that. But back to Sequestered, I think...
Now I'm feeling judged.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to get a jury and sequester that.
Well, so to extend my judgments, I really felt that this jury, you know, the idea of watching a sequestered jury is a great kind of classic trope, storytelling trope. 12 Angry Men, classic play, classic movie starring Henry Fonda. If you haven't seen it, stream it. It's incredible.
There's also a really fantastic episode of Seventh Heaven where they do a sequestered jury.
Oh, you mean the one that you were on?
Yes.
Cute. So the problem is this one is filled with one stereotype after another. There's the pushy Italian woman, there's the Latino thug, there's the older, wise black gentleman. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I felt like the stronger characters were outside. You know, you've got
Definitely.
Jesse Bradford, who I really enjoyed watching as, you know, the lawyer, the young lawyer who is taking on this high-profile case. He also reminds me of my boyfriend from sleepaway camp. I enjoyed watching Patrick Warburton as the governor.
Who did he remind you of?
He reminded me of Big, or, you know, Juliana Margulies' husband on The Good Wife. See, he's just a guy.
Mr. Big from Sex and the City.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He has no name. He's always just Chris Snow. And I enjoy watching him, and I enjoyed watching Patrick Warburton.
Okay. Fair enough.
But I hear what you're saying about the jury.
Stereotypes are not always a bad thing. In fact, our next series, Battleground, which is set in the battleground state of Wisconsin amidst a fictional congressional campaign, is our next entry in the ultimate playlist, shows that have done something to push the genre of streaming series. This one plays with some stereotypes, but I think does it in a fresh way.
So one of the reasons, of course, that we put Battleground on our ultimate playlist is because it was the very first scripted series from Hulu. It is of a, I'll say, more traditional TV length, and you know, they really made a commitment to putting this out there, and they actually put some marketing muscle behind it, and that was something we hadn't seen before. That
was in 2012. And that was a time also when the mockumentary, as this is, was pretty big on TV, The Office, Parks and Rec. But this is a little different. Not every mockumentary, I guess, is a satire. Certainly there's great mockumentary satires like Spinal Tap, but this is a little bit less mock, more umentary, in that it's sort of,
well, can I say something? So
yeah.
This is a pet peeve of mine, I'm going to get it out there. Mockumentary is mocking the documentary format. It's not necessarily mocking the subject of what the show is.
Fair enough.
Right, there, I've said it, I've made my point.
Okay. So, yeah, and it feels, this storyline feels fairly true to life. There's absolutely comedic aspects of it, and it's really fun. There's a lot of intrigue among the staff.
Wait a minute,
and all
you
that
mean
stuff.
people on a campaign sometimes get together and have romance and all that?
Absolutely. I love political stories like this. It's not only the inner workings there, but the strategy to bring down the other side and the ways in which they try to sabotage each other or play games that's really fascinating and interestingly true to life.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things that I felt was a big strength of this show. I thought they did a really good job of building conflict into each episode. The stakes were always really high, you know, whether it was something that was going on with the opposition. There was always, I always felt like there was some sort of ticking clock which really pushed forward the action. And at the same time, you know, as you were talking about before, there are some stereotypical characters, but yet they were explored in interesting ways. You know, you've got, you know, the young kind of naive staffer who finds his footing halfway through. You've got the staffer who thinks he's a ladies' man, who everybody would really maybe rather not put that out. You know, you've got like the hunky speechwriter, but all of these characters create a very rich world.
Yeah, and they actually feel fresh.
So the fact that Battleground is a longer series means that you need to make sure your battery is not going to give out, which brings us to new ways to watch. The iPhone 6 Plus is something that has a lot of perks for avid video viewers. It's got 1080 resolution, an IPS screen which features really great color saturation, and that extended battery life, which means you can keep watching and not worry it's going to click off before you find out who wins the race in Battleground.
And since you like to watch TV while you're, anywhere, that's, perfect for you. The screen, of course, on the iPhone 6 Plus is 5.5 inches, which is pretty big for watching something.
Especially in the historical evolution of the iPhone.
Absolutely. And it was in 2010 when Steve Jobs famously made fun of other manufacturers for having big screens.
Yeah, he compared it to a Hummer.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm curious, we'll never know, but what he would have thought, whether he would have allowed Apple to make these phones with such big screens, or whether he would have held back from that trend.
I'm curious to know what he would have thought of them calling it a phablet.
Oh, because it's a fabulous tablet?
Phone plus tablet, phablet.
Oh, like a fab with a PH.
Yes, your phablet would be fabulous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll never know.
Yeah. So speaking of fabulous, let's take a sec to revisit the shows we've talked about on this episode.
Absolutely.
Thurston.
For me, that's a play. I was impressed with it, and I'm intrigued by what they're doing.
Fair enough.
You? Pass or play?
Reluctant pass.
You know what? Own your past. You're a modern woman of the frontier.
Of the digital frontier.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's hard for me to pass because I really, really respect what the content creators have tried to do here. It did not leave me thirsting for more.
Ooh.
Sorry, had to go there. Yeah, it's getting bad.
All right, we got to move on to the next one then. Sequestered. I am a little bit reluctant. You know what? I'm not reluctant. I'm owning my pass.
Wow. Okay. Sticking to your guns. That would be Thurston.
Because if there were more Jesse Bradford and less sequestered jury full of stereotypes, I would have been swayed. Otherwise, not worth my time.
All right, I get that, but I'm going to disagree. I'm actually giving it a play. I have to admit, I watched most of this, while I was on the gym, while I was on the treadmill at the gym, and it was kind of like the perfect escapist thriller to watch as I was like running away. I had to pay just enough attention that I could follow it and enjoy it, and it took my mind off what I was doing. So yeah, I say press play.
That's pretty cool. All right. Next time on We Like to Watch, perhaps we'll agree.
Maybe, or let's keep it interesting and maybe we won't.
We'll see. We're curious what you think of the shows we've reviewed today. So
let us know
scroll
in the comments.
down and let us know in the comments.
Yeah. See you next time.
Thanks so much.